Welcome to the Trend Detection Podcast, powered by Siemens.
Welcome everyone to today's presentation. Predictive maintenance is more than asset risk prediction. Before we get started, I'd like to cover some basic housekeeping items for our audience. This presentation is being recorded and will be made available via a link in the follow-up email that will be sent to you after this session. The session will run around 45 minutes, and it'll only be better with your active participation. So please submit your questions throughout the presentation in the Q&A box that you will see in the upper right-hand corner of your viewing screen. We are monitoring the question box at all times, and we'll get to your questions at the end of the session. And you will also see poll questions in the right-hand panel at various points throughout. And finally, a reminder that you will be in listen-only mode throughout the duration of today's presentation. And now I'll hand it over to our host, Eric Kazor, to kick us off.
Thank you, Disha, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Predictive maintenance is more than just asset risk prediction. This is the first of a small set of series of webinars that we'll be doing on predictive maintenance technology. So today we're going to start off by just giving you a little sneak peek of the technology from Siemens that streamlines the complex data that you're collecting from your plant. And more than just, alerting you about certain issues, the technology actually helps to provide actionable insights to prescribe efficient ways of addressing the machine and maintaining the machine long before these things become a problem. So we'll take a quick peek into there, but more importantly today, we're also going to show you how you can get started and how to kick off these projects, things to look out for, making sure you're well prepared, but most importantly, to make sure you're successful in your predictive maintenance projects. So today we have a couple speakers. First, we have Rob Russell with us. So Rob's the head of predictive maintenance strategy and delivery with Siemens Senseye Predictive Maintenance. He's responsible for the strategic direction of the product and also focuses on maintaining its vision. So Rob's with us, and we also have Stefan Klauwitter from our team. Stefan is a digital enterprise lead architect for Siemens. So this means Stefan works closely with our customers, helping them design, implement, and scale their digitalization projects. So welcome, Stefan. So just a quick overview of what we'll be doing today. So we'll start out with a quick introduction, just a quick overview of the Siemens Senseye Predictive Maintenance technology. We'll dive a lot deeper into that into follow-up webinars. But today, Rob's also going to talk about how to measure your implementation readiness, so what to take a look for to make sure you're ready for these projects. And then Stefan will follow up on how do you close some of the gaps that might be identified. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Rob, who will take us to talk about Senseye.
Thanks, Eric, and thanks for everybody for joining today. So just before we start, I'd like to give a bit of an insight into what we mean by predictive maintenance and when we describe it. So predictive maintenance is basically building on top of existing technology that's been around for decades. So if we think about things like condition monitoring and the utilization of data from machines that you can then use to drive forward better maintenance practices like condition-based maintenance. And a lot of this has been done in many sectors, like you can see in this slide here with humans walking around routes, around plants, taking readings, and then capturing results, either it's from handheld equipment or gauges on machines. But we can then take those concepts, and as we move into digital worlds, we become in a situation where we're connected to thousands of machines potentially across our factory. And when we talk about predictive maintenance, what we're talking about doing is utilizing those condition monitoring data feeds. And in some cases, they're much simpler data streams that you've now got available from simple motors, conveying systems, robots. And the key focus here is ensuring that you can actually scale the capability of the human. And from that perspective, once we start to get connected from a digital level, we need an application that we can then serve up the results and the output to the end user. And the end user typically being somebody within the maintenance team, or maybe somebody within our reliability engineering team. As I've mentioned, it's about connecting to thousands of assets. Senseye Predictive Maintenance as a product is a cloud-based solution, and it's offered as a software as a service. And from that perspective, it's readily scalable. And a really important aspect is the fact that we focus not purely on looking for and trying to understand what is the health of the machine. We're trying to understand what the user in this case, the maintainer, will be interested in. So we have what we call a retention score that's underpinned by something that we call an attention engine. And this is a machine learning and AI capability that will process the analytics from the monitoring of the time series data, but then also try to build a model and understand what is the user's feedback telling us about the things that they're interested in. And the key sort of focus here is being able to improve those maintenance predictions, help the maintenance teams prioritize their labor, and understand really when they need to intervene. But if we look at the overall architecture, as I mentioned, Senseye is a SaaS product, so we sit very much on the right-hand side of this diagram. But now, with the being part of the wider Siemens community, after our acquisition just over a year ago, we've got access now to a whole lot of technology that allows us to bring all of this data from the shop floor seamlessly to the cloud and provide a complete solution offering. But as many of us will know, there's a lot of issues related to rolling out digitization projects. And I've taken this statistic, that's probably quite well known from our friends at Gartner, that 80% of analytics projects fail to deliver a key business outcome. And it's typically because of a lot of these challenges that we can see here on the right-hand side, where there's high levels of reactive maintenance, huge amounts of labor spent unnecessarily. And I won't go through all of these, but the key thing is that unless you start to address the many challenges that come along to implement your solution in your digital project, you're going to really struggle, because it's not just a case of taking a technology and rolling it out into the shop floor. But before we go any further, it'd be really interesting to get some input from the audience. So, Eric, I believe we've got a poll set up.
Yeah, so let's take a quick poll on the readiness here. There we go. So so the poll is really, take a look at your organization and what do you see as your biggest challenges when it comes to implementing a predictive maintenance project in your facility. So first, is it that you have too much reactive maintenance going on, you really can't focus on transitioning over to a new strategy? Maybe because of that, you have huge amounts of unnecessary labor that you're spending on reactive maintenance. You require a scalable solution. So instead of just little point solutions, you're looking for an overall solution for maintenance. You're looking for something that's proven and reliable versus just a little science project that we see sometimes out there. Something that can scale horizontally across all your plants and all the assets within those plants, so outside of just your single factory. And then lastly, cultural and change management, being able to focus on a cultural change about how to actually implement predictive maintenance. So just take a moment there and answer up, and we'll review those results later on in the presentation. So back to you, Rob.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. And just in regard to how we're going to proceed through this presentation, I want to focus on two main sort of aspects really in these, and it's this need for a proven and reliable technical solution. But really importantly, it's understanding the challenges that you're going to face from a cultural perspective and how you can drive that forward. So the way that we think about this, and when we're in a sort of a sales scenario with a client, is we want to understand and measure their readiness. And when we talk about measuring their readiness, we bring together that data or technical evaluation along with a cultural evaluation, and then come out with an index that we can then discuss with the client and then think about how we can take that further. And this isn't necessarily sort of clients that we've just engaged with. This might be factories that we're already working with in one geography, and then we start to look to expand into other regions, and we can help them in that respect. But when we start to think about each of these in turn, this data readiness and cultural readiness, we give this a score from 1 to 5, thinking from, are there any sensors installed? Maybe customers don't have any maintenance records at all, so they get a very sort of low outcome on this. But maybe there's some access to data, there's some digitization that's taken place, and maintenance that's potentially being recorded in paper or spreadsheets. And then it starts to become a little bit more interesting for us, where we can see there's the ability to capture data and get data online, maybe some raw samples from machines. This might just be things as simple as the current from motors, or the torque levels from robots, or temperatures from gearboxes. And starting to see how that can be supplemented with some maintenance data recording. Perhaps we're starting to see the introduction of like a computerized maintenance management system at this sort of level. And what we typically find are most mature customers at this kind of level 4, and this is maybe the exception rather than the rule, where we're seeing the use of online condition monitoring data and supplementing that with maintenance systems. But where we aspire to and to take our clients is right up to level 5, where we've got online condition monitoring and with very good condition indicators. And these are the key leading indicators of failure that can actually, we can feed into algorithms and do some really advanced things with them. But also wanting to see that that's been utilized with a maintenance management system. So we've got good coverage of the maintenance, and we've got electronic records that then we can supplement the time series data with. And then when we think about the cultural readiness, it's kind of maybe a little bit similar, but what we're saying here is typically at the base level, we see there's no maintenance strategy and everything's very reactive, and there's no target set for the maintainer. So there's no objectives, the organization is not culturally objective driven. Then you start to experience organizations that are maybe a little bit more mature, where they've got preventative time-based maintenance scheduling, and they're starting to track some measures of the effectiveness of their maintenance. And then again, as it starts to build up to level 3 and 4, this is where we're saying it's really interesting to start to think about predictive maintenance. So it's, there's mainly preventative maintenance, but there's some levels of monitoring going on. So you're starting to maybe utilize manual readings to drive maintenance decisions. But importantly, you have some defined KPIs within the business. Either it's to maintain uptime of machines or to reduce your maintenance costs. And then, some of those most mature customers, I would say, is where we're starting to see the utilization of condition monitoring is ingrained in the organization, and there's clear and ambitious targets set for the maintenance team. And again, at level 5, there's very few organizations that we find that are at this level. It's where there's a proper blend of predictive and preventative maintenance and the very effective maintenance strategies already implemented. And the ambitious targets then are becoming something that's driving forward the continuous improvement within the organization. And the way that we sort of show this, is in a matrix here, and we typically try to score clients within this matrix, where we've got this cultural maturity and data maturity, and the ambition is to move clients as far away from the bottom left and up to the top right as possible. Somewhere within that green zone is where we're saying an organization, we would be ready to engage with them straight away. But if you're somewhere in the amber and red, then probably there's some steps that we'd want to take with you earlier, and realize that we would probably need higher levels of support through a project to help you with that adoption and change. But we want to maybe reflect back and let's see what you thought as an audience, and we could have a look at these poll results. So is it possible we could have those brought back up? Just adjusting my screen so we can see them. So yeah, so this is interesting. So it is cultural change management has come out as one of the highest here. high levels of reactive maintenance has been reflected back within a lot of the organizations, and that need for a proven and reliable technical solution, as we discussed. Interestingly, some of the lower aspects are maybe large amounts of unnecessary labor spent. So maybe a lot of teams are already very lean, budgets are tight, and it's maybe forcing managers to run in quite a lean sort of team sizes. Stefan, Eric, any comments you'd like to add on those?
Not for my, there's a question that I see, why do 80% initiatives fail? I mean, this really highlights that, right, Rob? I mean, they're missing some of the readiness, whether it be in the culture or technology wise, and they're not up under that green section that you showed in your curve, right?
That's right. And some of the things we find is it's maybe the way that some organizations go through like procurement cycles. We actually get asked to do a lot of proof of concepts, right? And people are obsessed and focused on maybe that one to do with the need for proven technical solutions, and completely forget the cultural aspect. The thing that we like to discuss with clients is more of a proof of value, right? So let's go forward into a project where we can take the technical solution, implement it at a modest scale, looking across maybe a specific area in a production line, a few tens, maybe to 100 assets. But the key thing there is to prove that the technology can be used by the team. You can change your work processes and demonstrate an overall business value. And this is why we like to talk about proof of value rather than proof of concept. Okay. So thanks very much for that input. It's interesting just to see what was there. So one thing that we've done at Senseye is we've been gathering a lot of data from our customer base and through the use of various sales channels, and we've created a report that is readiness for predictive maintenance at scale. And this was a survey that covered, 174 diverse industrial customers. So we cover everything from fast-moving consumer goods through to heavy industries and mining and automotive production. But what's important as well is that the range of contributors to that survey covered a diversity of roles within organizations, and the data covered a 5-year period. So there's a QR code here on the screen. If you're quick, you can capture it, but we've got a slide later on where you get access to that. But just a bit of highlights from the results from that survey. And this is an overview of where a lot of those organizations, those 174 organizations, ended up falling within this. Now, from our perspective, there was over 50 to 55% were down in that amber and red zone. So either they had low cultural and low data maturity that were forcing them down there. But what this means is that from our perspective, it was 50-50 really with most customers, whether there'd be success without a high degree of what we describe as customer success management. So as well as providing our SaaS product, we overlay with that a level of services that we can provide, and we've got a knowledge base and a knowledge platform that we associate and give the customers access to. But yeah, you'll be able to get a link back to that QR code towards the end of the presentation. And Eric, I'll hand back over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. So yeah, so that's interesting for sure. To see where all those customers stood and how they kind of moved through those steps. Next we're going to move over to Stefan, who's going to walk through some strategies on closing some of those gaps. Again, our goal is to make sure that you're successful in your implementation. So we can also help you kind of get from that lower left-hand corner up to the upper right-hand corner to be ready for these projects to make sure you're successful. So Stefan's going to walk through some of those strategies. But before we do that, we're going to do another quick poll. Question's a little different here. Now, again, think about your organization. Does it have clear strategies or roadmaps on integrating predictive maintenance into existing manufacturing processes? So first, yeah, it's well defined, you're ready to go. Next, maybe, yeah, you have plans, but need some refinement. The further you learn about these technologies, no, it's under development, or no, there's no plans at all. So take a minute and answer that, and we'll move on to Stefan, who can talk about some strategies to address some of the challenges you might face.
Please like and subscribe on all major podcast channels and find out more about Senseye Predictive Maintenance at Siemens.com.